No facts, only versions. Jamaicans will tell you that when it comes to the truth, there are no facts, only versions. My parents, Ethling and Bagai, were born in Jamaica and emigrated to the UK in 1959. When I grew up with them in 1960s and 70s Luton in southern England, they clearly subscribed to this maxim of the slippery nature of truth. However, I dispute the first part of the Jamaican assertion. There are verifiable facts, but in recounting them in writing, memoirs give us versions of those facts. Memoirist accounts are not acts of bad faith, and more often than not, writers trade the attempt to capture empirical truth for a quest for emotional truth. Writing my family history in Bagai at the Wheel, and recently in I'm Black So You Don't Have to Be, the stories I've told have sometimes been contested by family members. I've always answered relatives who complain that I've got things wrong with a simple retort. This is my version. If you don't like it, you're free to write your own. This guest edition, No Facts, Only Versions, sets out to explore the art of memoir writing and the freedoms and constraints of the form. Historians do not write history, they curate it. In the same way, writing a memoir or biography requires curation. Memoirs are as much about what is excluded as what is included. How do you write in the absence of facts, or with facts that are contested? Let's begin with Ethlyn, me, and Doc Saunders. Beneath my mother Ethlyn's right eye, across a large part of her cheek, the skin was darkened. I recall from my childhood that it didn't cause her physical discomfort, but Ethlyn was made self-conscious by its permanent presence. The birthmark was disguised through the daily application of a soft tan compact powder. She made up her face every time she stepped out of the house to meet whatever and whoever came her way. That is a fact. But in the settling of some unknowable family feud when I was 19, my granduncle, Doc Saunders, pulled me to one side and hissed, "You see that thing pon your mumma face? That na birthmark. It's syphilis. One day she did mess round with some nasty servant boy. I don't tell no lie." Except, of course, he did lie. Intent on causing me injury, to doubt the truth that Ethlyn was as commendable as Doc Saunders was despicable in casting aspersions on my mother's character by attributing to her a sexually transmitted infection that was heavily stigmatized. Therein lies the rub for the kind of memoir writing I've written for the past decade. How to distill the truth. The unreliability of facts permeates Jamaican culture. My Jamaican family, when they're not dissembling a story, will tell you straight, "Me no like people chat my business." My relatives withhold stories and, in every case, under scrutiny, will trot out the Jamaican aphorism, "There are no facts, only versions." It's often asserted, for instance, that the laws of the land in Jamaica are written in pencil so that they can easily be rubbed out. How then do I travel, as it were, between the birthmark and the stain? How do I embrace the simple fact that I was born black, and yet reject the negative judgment promoted over centuries that blackness is a curse or a stain? Well, I could write as if the reader were part of my extended family, providing linguistic insights along the way to help them navigate the story. Take, for example, the phrase, "play fool for catch wise," a strategy practiced widely by Caribbean people that is rooted in the days of slavery. When confronted and threatened by the overseer, the enslaved habitually disabused massa of the notion that they constituted a threat by masking their own intelligence. It's a fundamental modus operandi even today, as familiar to black people as the black nod. Lately, I've been excited by the prospect of extending the black nod, the subtle signal of recognition and allyship that a black stranger in my youth would give to a fellow black person as they passed each other on the street, to all people, not just those who are black. Writing, for me, is an act of intimacy, giving readers a version of the black nod. Its extension to those not numbered among the black cognoscenti is a gift, I reckon. Like a line of credit, you don't have to repay. I see my non-fiction creative writing as a tribute to black readers as well as those who identify as non-black, but might yet recognise the resonance of the protagonist's epiphany at the end of Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. Who knows but that on the lower frequencies I speak for you. Still, the language used to describe the Afro-Caribbean world in my memoir, I'm Black, So You Don't Have to Be, comes with a risk in communicating with readers unfamiliar with the terrain and contours of its culture. Always I tell myself, yes, you transmit, but do they, the readers, receive? The frequency of my diasporic black family's language hums with meaning, but can be difficult to tune into. When questioned, for example, about whether she considered herself beautiful, Ethlyn would answer in a way that would seem straightforward to us, but perhaps enigmatic to strangers. Trina groe me face. For me, the thrill and challenge of writing is to use that language to reach for, to grasp and illuminate a truth which has previously been shaded or left to grow inconspicuously in the dark. A photographic negative emerging as a print in the developing fluid that retains its negative capability, its precise meaning not necessarily yet discernible. Consider the title of I'm Black, So You Don't Have to Be. Is it a provocation, an insult, a plea for special consideration, or none of the above? Its meaning may not be immediately apparent because it's meant to leave room for speculation, for the reader to join up the dots. But it's also a statement of fact. Throughout his writing, James Baldwin often asserted that hollowed-out white Americans who believed in the lie of whiteness needed their black compatriots in order to define themselves. But in my memoir, the language is informed by a Jamaican vibe, with guiding punctuation, designed to imbue the reader with a particular sensibility, to become, for the duration of the reading at least, an honorary Jamaican. The title is simply a phrase my rambunctious uncle Castus coined to describe my privileged life, earned without merit off the back of his misfortune. My colour did not precede me when I went to university, found girlfriends, or obtained employment. But Uncle Castus arrived in the UK in the 1960s, a bad, more nakedly hostile time, when the population didn't see beyond his colour. He was black, so I wouldn't have to be. The writing is an evocation of the past, with language designed not as decoration, but to evoke resonant truth, contributing to its hum, its atmosphere. It's analogous to the way you might sense meaning in music sung in a foreign language, with unintelligible individual words. In I'm Black, So You Don't Have to Be, that hum is occasionally discordant, when Doc Saunders' language meant to unmoor me, to undo my affection for Ethlyn, is flecked with brittle notes. Few of us live in isolation, and we have an impact on and are affected by the larger histories that form and direct society. How do writers resolve the tension of using stories that don't only belong to them? What do they do about those contradictory versions that threaten to complicate their narratives? The writers and storytellers of No Facts, Only Versions wrestle with the ethical and moral dilemmas of agency and ownership. Whose story is it anyway? And what about the limits, the fragility and unreliability of memory? In this guest edition, Hannah Lowe, Clementine Burnley, Nick Rankin, Sanjida O'Connell and Phil Okwedi strike resonant notes with the excavation of their lives and the lives of others. All writing is an act of faith, and of putting the writer and reader in the shoes of others. The writers of No Facts, Only Versions illuminate the challenges and rewards of that endeavour.